Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well, peace, and salutations to the elect. My name is Aynan. The title of this video is Think EBT, but on a bigger scale, Jacob Trouble. And I'll take that A out of there, make it one A. But yeah, think EBT, but on a bigger scale, Jacob Trouble. And ultimately, we have the northern tribes, of course, been, shipped out, right, out of America and sent back, hopefully, to these different places that they used to live at previously before Trump, stopped, giving the, the aid and things like that. And if they do make it back, now they're even, if they want to try to, have a job as a fisherman, they're being blown to smithereens, you know, and their ports are being hit now. Trump is making strikes on Venezuela and stopping them for making money because Venezuelan, right? The Venezuelans are of the tribe of Asher, right? And they're going through basically Jacob trouble, right? Even if they're getting shipped up out of here from America and then shipped back to Venezuela, and now Trump is at war with Venezuela, trying to take the resources that Venezuela has, telling them that it doesn't belong to them, right? As we reach towards the end, and many of these fishermen and whatnot are afraid to, fish for their food now and make their money because they can't, they risk being blown up by America, right? And different things. So that's pretty much what I thought about when I seen this video right here. I'm gonna play a little bit of it. Of course, I'm gonna get the Jacob Trouble precept. I asked chat some stuff, going into Jacob's Trouble and how he has stopped aid from Colombia, right, and Venezuela and different things. Because when you think about the EBT and him cutting, America cutting the DEI or whatever, projects, the food stamps and all these different things, and the problems that they're having, he's also doing that to whole countries, stopping millions and billions of dollars for their aid also, right? And a lot like Venezuela and Colombia, these are our people, all right? And it's causing problems. You even have the gang cartels, in Mexico being hit, which that's our people too, Issacar, right? They're being hit, even though they're doing wickedness, but they're no longer able to just move and wiggle around the earth, freely. Now, that Jacob Trouble is upon us. Donald Trump is all around the world causing hell, for our people, even if they do deserve to get that ass spanked, So anyway, here's this video.
We hit them big. We struck them good. We're in that thing. Listen, when someone's standing on something that you want, you make them the enemy. And this may be it. This may be the time. I've been talking about it for a few weeks now. But apparently the president just disclosed that we actually are doing kinetic activity in Venezuela, that maybe we are now in a ground war with Venezuela. We're doing strikes in Venezuela. However you want to summarize it, it can be those things. President Trump just dropped, in my opinion, a bombshell announcement that changes the entire scope of the U.S. operations in South America. We are starting to pull diplomats from some of those countries like Suriname, however you pronounce the name of that country. We're telling our ambassador, come January, you're out of there, bruh. And we're kind of slowly letting die on the vine the relationship with countries such as Colombia. We're elevating the relationship with countries such as Argentina by giving them bread. And now here we go, Venezuela. We are now apparently doing strikes in their country, within their borders. For months, we've seen the U.S. Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, all of them targeting different activities from Venezuela, whether it's their communication abilities, going for some of their GPS, jamming some of their GPS trackers, physically attacking what they allege to be drug boats at sea. But now the president claims that the U.S. has moved onshore. According to Trump, a big facility in Venezuela has been knocked out. Is this the start of a new kinetic phase of Operation Southern Spear, something that has Southern Spear has been announced since earlier this year? Let's break down exactly what was said and what that means for the region. And in my opinion, what happens next. First off, make sure you hit the like button on this video. It helps push me out to other folks. And also letting me know that you're a real one by putting battalion down below, and I will heart your message and let me know your thoughts about us possibly going onshore and getting down with Venezuela at their turf. Let me go ahead and finish lighting this up. The news first surfaced during a radio interview on 777 WABC, which is, I think, an affiliate out of the New York area. It was confirmed by the president during a meeting with the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump stated, quote, "They have a big plant or a big facility where the ships come from. 2 nights ago, we knocked that out," end quote. He described a major explosion in a docked area used for loading drug running boats, calling it an implementation area. He was blunt about the result, quote, "That is no longer around," end quote. While the president didn't name the exact location, social media reports from Christmas Eve pointed to a massive fire and explosion in industrial owned in the Zula state. And so I also reached out to my father-in-law to see if he can confirm, and he says there was a fire in that area. He didn't know what it was from. Of course, the Maduro regime is not going to tell their citizens if they get hit. At least they were going to try not to. So he doesn't know what it's from. While some companies claimed it was an accident, the timing matches what the president is saying. So we got companies that are in the area saying it's an accident. I would imagine the president knows what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Department of War give him a little bit of juice. And you got to think about how we layered this. We started with special operations with the SEALs conducting missions at sea. Now we brought in DHS and we incorporated Coast Guard and their elite forces. Now we're thinking about Delta Force.
Right. So this is like countries like or UK and NATO and Europe and all of that, how they're struggling because they're putting sanctions on Russia so they can't get the resources they need at a good price, right? So they're fucking struggling. So now Trump is doing the same thing to Venezuela, where ultimately is going to cause the people there to struggle more than they already are, right? And on top of that, if they do want to go fish, and be a fisherman, they're being blown to smithereens, right? And the president himself, if he's sending oil somewhere, they're taking the oil ships now, So it's just Jacob trouble on the big way, in a big way, happening to the Venezuelans. And then even he said, Colombia, you're next. All right. And as the guy stated here, he's cutting ties with Colombia, Venezuela. So as chat, I said, what aid did Trump stop giving to Colombia since he took office? It says suspension and freeze of U.S. aid, since suspension of essentially all U.S. foreign aid programs, including those involving Colombia. Shortly after taking office, Trump signed an executive order pausing almost all U.S. development and foreign assistance to conduct a review of foreign aid and realign it with his administration priorities. And his administrations go back to the JWOs, and they don't care nothing for the Israelites. All right. This freeze applied broadly, affecting programs that would otherwise have been funded for Colombia. Aid funds earmarked for Colombia were frozen or halted. Specific U.S. Agency for International Development environmental funding was frozen, 70 million. Suspension of aid tied to political tensions. It says public suspension of aid and payments and subsidies to Colombia announced. Impact on specific areas of cooperation. Right? America doesn't want to too much do business with them. All right, frozen, paused, disrupted, suspended. That's it. I said, what about Venezuela? We had most U.S. Development and humanitarian aid was stopped or canceled. Economic and energy related aid, reversal of oil concessions. Trump canceled oil export or production concessions previously granted to Venezuela by the Biden administration, cutting off a key financial inflow that had been partly enabled under U.S. licensing. Restrictions on Venezuelan oil. Trump administration has taken steps to intercept and quarantine Venezuelan oil exports and seize sanctioned tankers. Right, further restricting Venezuela's ability to earn revenue internationally. Immigration and protection program, repeal of migrant relief measures. Trump's administration revoked an extension of temporary protected status that allowed more than 600,000 Venezuelans living in the U.S. to remain and work legally, making many subject to deportation. It says end of humanitarian parole. Programs like humanitarian parole, allowing Venezuelans and others to enter the U.S. temporarily for safety and shelter, were ended. All right. We got security sanctions and military pressure instead of aid. Rather than offering traditional aid, the U.S. under Trump has shifted toward pressure, sanctions, and military operations. All right. So once again, think EBT, but in a big way. All right. This is Jacob's trouble, for the Venezuelans that are here, right? And then now they're leaving and they're going to Venezuela, and they're having more trouble when they go back to where they came from, if they make it there, right? Jeremiah 30:6, it says, Ask ye now and see whether a man do travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right? And ultimately the elect, right? Those of us that have returned and seek, back to Yahweh Shai, will be protected and good. And if just so happen a brother does have to leave and go back, the Most High make it so where he gets to where he needs to be, right? He doesn't accidentally fall out the back of the airplane, right, and end up washed up on shore. This is Daniel 12:1. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. All right, so we're entering in a time now, and it's only going to increase. All right. So I got this little article right here that I had to make an account. It's a free account. They tried to make me pay. I don't know if it's going to kick in later, but this was the only thing that I could find because I asked, and I'll show you. Hopefully it does it for me. So I said, is Trump blowing up fishing boats affecting Venezuela citizens? And what I was trying to aim for was like, loss of income, right? Not food, maybe a fish famine, something like that. But it didn't really give me anything. I checked most of these, just talking about how they took out a new port or something like that, and even the port, that's income, right? And that's another problem that Venezuelans are now facing because they can't do port business because Trump is blowing it up. So anyway, I found this one, and it was pretty good. All right, give me oh man, please. I will say if it worked, well, it was working before, saying you got the little search bar right there. And I will just copy that. We'll go over here to the search bar. We'll put it in there and see if it works this time. Same thing. And that's kind of upsetting. I really wanted to play this. We got bitch ass E pulling up. I'm about to see something.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah, 'cause I got to get you to go. All my guys are coming in. Okay. So,
Yeah, I'm about to leave in like 10 minutes.
yeah, they're all on their way in.
Okay.
So I might probably going to be open for tomorrow. All right. If you need a place to park, go out to the stop sign, go through the stop sign, and it's a dead end street. right around the park over there. All right, thanks, man.
It's a I'm gonna get the word. You know, when the person comes around, like the cameo or whatever the case may be. Esau loves that. Anyway, I'll be back. All right, so I came back. Pretty much the video was almost done. I just want to get this part. So I had to find it somewhere else. All right, so I can bear with me. All right, so like I was saying, I had to find it somewhere else. Anyway, what is it called when someone makes a guest appearance? A cameo appearance, also called a cameo role, and often shortened to just cameo, is a brief guest appearance of a well-known person, Edom, Esau, or a character in the work of the performing arts. Right? Yeah, I'm doing the Lord's work right now, and most times you do get a distraction or something's going on. Well, in my case, you know, and we call it a cameo of Esau Edom. All right. So anyway, I had to find it here because this thing is giving me problems. That's cool. It says grim evidence of Trump's airstrike washes ashore on the Colombian peninsula. And with this one, it would have read it. I was gonna allow it to read it to us, but now you have to read it for yourself. Okay? It says a thunderous boom rang out through the windless late afternoon air. Because like this is like a movie or something. Let me how they're talking about it. So anyway, it says Erica unwittingly recording the only verified and independent video known to date of the aftermath of an airstrike and the Trump administration's campaign against what it calls macro terrorists. 2 days later, on that same shore, a scorched 30-foot long boat would wash up, then two mangled bodies. Then charred Gary cans, life jackets, and dozens of packets that were observed by the New York Times and were similar to others that have been found after anti-narcotic operations in the region. Most packets were empty, though traces of substance that looked and smelled like marijuana were found in the lining of a few. So nonetheless, mangled bodies are washing back up, and things are washing back up. And, this is just Jacob Trouble of the tribes. And ultimately, you can go ahead and search this video up if you want and read if you want. I just want to bring that part out there. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.